Sam Altman, the man himself, the CEO, the boss, the top guy of OpenAI, has admitted, apparently, that he and people within OpenAI haven't got a clue how their AI works. Do you believe him? I don't. And let me explain to you why. You see, there was this report that I saw this morning. It was published actually yesterday on June 3rd. And basically, it was published in futurism.com. Again, as usual, the link is in the description below. Titled, Sam Altman admits that OpenAI doesn't actually understand how its AI works. Quote, we certainly have not solved interpretability. Now, for those who don't know, interpretability or interpretability research in the world of AI, it's basically, as the name suggests, it's trying to understand how the algorithms behind the AI models actually work. And in fact, it's a key element of something that my company promotes quite strongly as part of the responsible AI model is explainable AI. So the idea is that you want to understand if the AI model that you deployed in your company or your project came up with a particular output or came up with a particular decision, you want it to explain, or you want to have the ability to understand how it came up with that decision. And it's really important part of the AI safety aspects of things. That's why, people criticizing OpenAI for not being open per se, and they're closing the model so that if you're using GPT, you literally haven't got a clue, as an outsider that is, you haven't got a clue how it came up with the output. But the issue I have with the statement that nobody in OpenAI understands how the AI works and they haven't solved the interpretability issue and they're still kind of working it out, etc. Let me tell you something about why I don't believe that. There are, in fact, three reasons. The number one reason, let me explain to you how the world of tech works, okay? Especially if you are involving investors. So the first reason, when you involve investors into your company, one of the key things that they look for is intellectual property, because part of, as a way, if you think of it as a security, okay, so that if they are to invest in your company, they want to have some kind of assurances so that if things don't work out, they can get some of that money back. So let's say if things don't work out and your company goes into administration, then you've got the intellectual property that could be sold off to somebody else and they could just use it and they pay you money for it, yada yada. Okay. So if you, the CEO, I mean, I can tell you certainly my investors, if I were to tell them back in the day that I do not know how the IP works that they are investing in, believe me, they would not invest. No investor would ever go anywhere near a company that claims to have intellectual property and then say to the investors that, yeah, actually, sorry guys, we haven't got a clue how it works. You what now? That's impossible. They're not going to, because if you don't know how something works, let's say for whatever reason it stops working, how the hell are you going to fix it? Let's use my car analogies. Let's say you have a car, you go to a mechanic, and the mechanic tells you, yeah, I'm a car mechanic, but I haven't got a clue how your car works. Does that actually make any sense to you? To me, that doesn't make any sense. And frankly, when they have somebody like Microsoft as an investor, I'm telling you, my company is a scale-up cohort of Microsoft startup program over the years, and I am telling you, I've been within the circles when they were bringing GPT into Azure. Microsoft bet the house on this thing. Do you really think they would invest billions into a technology that nobody knows how it works? Of course they wouldn't. They would never do that. I mean, that's not how Microsoft does that. Or indeed, any investor, even my investors, none of them would have ever come near me if I told them that I do not know how my intellectual property or like, even if I'm the CEO, okay, I'm the useless person, but let's say my mathematicians, they haven't got a clue how the model works. They would not invest. Of course they would not invest. Why would they do that? It's crazy. And on a similar fashion, which is the second reason, one of the things that OpenAI seemed to be struggling with, and there were a few reports and scoops, especially there was that famous scoop from Reuters that was published, I think, probably around April time, where apparently Microsoft helping OpenAI to connect with the big corporations, because as you probably seen in the video that was published this morning, but I kind of remind you about this issue as well, because we see that at our end as well. The adoption rate of these generative AI models within the enterprise is actually not that high. So the interest is really high, right? They're really, excited about it. They think there's a lot of potential and etc. But potential does not mean that they're going to commit, right? I have a lot of conversations with CFOs especially, and CFOs are particularly worried because they're like, well, what happens if we invest all that money, but we're not going to get the return on the investment? It's all about the money. Of course it is. It's all about the money, right? If you invest in the tech, same principle apply here. A CFO would never invest in an intellectual property or technology if the company behind the technology does not know how it works. Because if things go belly up, what happens? Who's going to fix it? What happens to all the investment? Let's use the car analogy again. If your car breaks down, right? You go to the mechanic. Would you trust the mechanic that tells you, yeah, I am a mechanic. I don't know how to fix your car, even though I'm a car mechanic, because I don't know how your car works. Or another example, if you were to go to a car garage and they sell you their car and they'll tell you, yeah, enjoy the car, but by the way, we haven't got a clue how it works. Would you buy that car? I wouldn't. It's nonsensical to me. It's nonsensical. And the third reason, again, and I speak here from experience. Normally, when you have something like that in AI, one of the reasons why the world of AI is so exciting, why it excites me, that because AI models, indeed, they are unpredictable. One of the things that I like to say, and I used to say this for years, in fact, that the key difference between AI and automation, because for many years, even today, some people kind of confuse the two. Automation doesn't necessarily involve AI. You don't need AI for automation because effectively, you've got a known input and a known output, and you just automate the process to generate the output and take in the input, right? It's a fairly simple way of explaining it. So you are predicting, you know what the output is. Let's put it that way. That's automation. Now, of course, to change the output, you can add few AI elements here and there, machine learning elements, so that, for example, if the input is of a particular type, then the output should be of a particular type. And you kind of make the machine learning kind of figure these things out, but it's still automation. Whereas the AI output is actually unpredictable because you're giving it the input. And the whole point of AI, as I've said in many of my videos before, the whole point of AI is supposed to figure things out. It's not automation. It's not supposed to automate. It's supposed to figure stuff out, right? Or at least help humans figure things out. So the idea here is that you would give it the input, then it will make a decision of how to generate the output, or what would be the output that is most appropriate in its opinion. Obviously, it's not real opinion, but based on its calculations, what is the ultimate output of the input? But most of the time, you don't know what the output is. That's how AI works. And in fact, one of the things that we built with my company, like before we built the company, sort of the IP that we had, and we built it alongside our partners at the University of Leicester because they've got some of the best mathematicians in the world, literally. And we used some of their proprietary neural networks. We also worked with another company as a client. And we actually had a situation where our models, accidentally invented a new language, which sounds crazy. And it was really exciting for us. We were like, wow, man, this is so cool. It just invented its own language. It's not a human language. We were looking at it. It was like, what the hell is this thing? That is cool. But do you know what that was our first priority after that was? It's to figure out how the hell it did that. We had to figure it out. We needed to understand it. Why? Firstly, because there's a client involved, right? We're not going to give this thing to our clients and say, hey, look, see, we're proving it. It's AI. It works because it just invented a new language. Yeah, give us the cash. And then the thing stops working. Then what? We're in trouble. You just don't do that. So we actually figured it out. We figured out how it works. And although I'm not here to promote my company, but if you go to our company at nebulae.com, you're actually going to see that we have a framework called the data stack. And there is an element in there called the nebulized data layer. Basically, it's a framework or technique rather, that effectively takes a copy of your original data and uses this non-human language to interpret it in such a way so that nobody else can understand what that data set is. And effectively, we use it as a security layer that is not reliant on encryption. And the reason we're kind of looking at it, not because we have any issues with encryption, although some of our mathematicians do, I don't. I'm diplomatic, but the idea behind it is that we want to find a way to develop data security that is quantum computing safe. Now that's another discussion for another day. But the idea here, if you're not familiar with some of the principles and some of the hypotheses, that quantum computers can actually decrypt anything that is encrypted, no matter what, including an entire blockchain network within a few minutes, apparently. Now, this is not my area of expertise. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I might bring an expert to talk about that if the topic arises again. But the idea behind it is that we wanted to create a new security layer for original data, so that effectively you've got this new layer, the nebulized data layer, that uses a non-human language. So if anybody hacks into it, they would not know what the hell they're looking at. It completely covers the origins of the sort of the initial data sets of the client. So it's a security measure. And we know how it works. We built it, we set it up, we analyzed it, we try to understand it. It's part of our research for years. And as I said, we've developed it in partnership using proprietary neural networks of the university, and some of proprietary data sets, etc. So that's why it's only something that we do with enterprises. It's very, very private, it's very, very close. But the point is, we had to prioritize understanding of the process, because otherwise we can't sell it. Not to mention, it's dangerous. I mean, what happens if it doesn't work? And our client, or even we, rely on that security layer to cover our data sets, our original data sets. And then it turns out actually that it's not covering anything. Then guess what? We've exposed our data sets to hackers. Do you see what I'm saying? It's super important to know how these models work, because there are consequences if you don't know how they work. Which brings me to the key argument I have, and I made a short video about this today, that when you say that you don't understand how an AI model works, yet at the same time you're saying that you've got all of the security measures, you're following all the security measures, you've put all the guardrails around the model. But, well, again, how can you assure security of something and safety of something if you don't know how it works? To me, that makes literally no sense. If you guys have an opinion on this, please feel free to comment below. Please feel free to explain it to me. But I just don't understand. How can you keep something safe if you don't know how it works? Right? If you don't know how a car works, how do you make sure that the car is safe? It makes no sense. Literally, these two things just literally make absolutely no sense. And I actually spoke to an expert earlier today, and they agreed with me. They're like, yeah, that just makes absolutely no sense. I'm calling out for what it is. I think I don't know why he would say something like that, because it does not do him any favors. It does not do OpenAI any favors. I highlighted many times that the trust in the world of AI is actually pretty low. It's not good. This is not a good thing. And this report, in fact, on futurism, it also kind of highlighted the report that was commissioned by the UK government, where the experts, of course, they are external experts, and they actually came up with a very interesting statement that apparently, I'm just trying to find the statement here. It's like, yeah, a panel of 75 experts recently concluded in a landmark scientific report commissioned by the UK government that AI developers, quote, understand little about how their systems operate, and that scientific knowledge is very limited. So yeah, I mean, again, in the research environment, yes, but in a commercial environment, that is unacceptable. You would, as I said, this is not something that enterprises would ever pay for. Certainly, investors would never invest in anything like that. And as I said, I connected with some of the developers. I even connected with some of the senior Microsoft developers that were involved in bringing GPT on Azure. I'm telling you, they know how it works. Yeah, I don't. I'm an outsider, obviously. Nobody does. It's a closed model, but they do. And in fact, one of the key reasons why, for example, we use Azure GPT rather than OpenAI is because with Azure GPT, you get an extra layer of enterprise level security. So the nano version, the free version that you see publicly available, we actually built it on an enterprise level security on Azure. because we want to test it, we want to showcase it, etc. But at the same time, Microsoft has added more guardrails and more security compared to what OpenAI is offering. And again, how would they do that if they don't know how it works? They wouldn't. They can't. It makes no sense. Technically, just impossible. So, where does that leave us? I really don't know. I mean, I did say before, sometimes when you reach sort of the end of the hype cycle, um, Gartner calls it the like sort of the edge of the trough of disillusionment, and I think we are now going down that trough of disillusionment. And what I tend to see, and I did highlight this before, in fact, several videos ago, that CEOs start talking or saying things or even acting in a fairly outrageous way to get a lot of attention. Is that one of those situations? Is he trying to get attention? Even if it's a bad attention, I don't know. Maybe he saw the report that I highlighted in the video earlier today that the vast majority of the public apparently are totally meh about AI. Even the younger generation that you would expect would jump on the AI hype, while they're basically ducking the whole thing. And in the UK, apparently 30% of the British population don't even know what ChatGPT is. So maybe he saw that report. He's like, shit, I need to get more users, because you probably seen all of the reports that the user adoption of ChatGPT, the public ChatGPT, has plateaued. And I personally think it's predominantly developers or people like myself, people who are involved very deeply into the AI world and the tech world, etc. People are enthusiasts, but of course, we don't represent the majority of the population around the world. And of course, investors, when investors jump in onto your business, they want, frankly, endless growth, no matter what. And that certainly does not provide any confidence to the investors. But more importantly, I mean, if he's trying to get attention so that people get to know or hear about OpenAI a bit more so they can get more users, well, I don't think users would want to register into a tech that the people behind the tech don't know how it works, despite the fact that they're guaranteeing security and safety. I don't know. I'm confused, perhaps. So, guys, you're very welcome to you know correct me here, or share your ideas. What do you think is going on here? But like I said, based on from my position within the tech world, that makes zero sense. Frankly, I don't believe him. um and they've got billions of dollars in their bank account. They hired some of the best, literally the best developers, mathematicians, data scientists in the world. Not to mention they've got Microsoft's own developers, data scientists, again, the best in the world. I've met some of them, and none of them knows how it works. Get the hell out of here, man. Seriously, get out of here. So anyway, that was just a quick update. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, feel free to comment below. Again, help us subscribe, share the video, help us grow. Let's grow this community together, because it's time that we call this nonsense out. Yeah, I mean, perhaps I'm hoping that he's not being truthful, because if he is truthful, if it does turn out that somehow nobody in OpenAI knows how GPT works, oh my God, that's bad news. That's really bad news. Anyway, guys, I'll speak to you soon. Take care of yourselves. Peace.